Hello and welcome to our channel. I know many of you have inflation on your minds lately, so today let's have an in-depth discussion about what's going on with rising prices and the impact it's having. There's a lot to cover, but I'll try to explain things clearly and offer some guidance on managing through this economic climate. Sound good? Let's dive in. First things first, inflation at its core simply means the general price levels for goods and services are rising over time. As prices go up, your dollar doesn't stretch as far when you go to spend money. Inflation is measured through the Consumer Price Index, or CPI for short. The CPI tracks the prices of a basket of common goods and services purchased by households, including food, gasoline, housing, clothing, transportation, medical care, and so on. It provides a way to compare price changes over time. If the CPI rises 5% over the course of a year, for example, it means consumer prices on average have increased 5% over the past 12 months. Your dollars today don't have the same purchasing power they did last year. You'll notice higher price tags on items at the grocery store, gas station, department stores, and elsewhere. Inflation isn't totally unusual or always bad news. A moderate level of inflation is actually a sign of a healthy, growing economy in most cases. However, right now, we are seeing inflation rise at exceptionally high levels, which does hurt consumers. Typically, the Federal Reserve aims to keep inflation around 2% annually. But over the past year, inflation has skyrocketed to 4-decade highs, surpassing 7% and even reaching 8% at times. When you combine this with the fact that wages for many haven't kept up with rising prices, it's no wonder inflation has become such a hot topic recently. Given that inflation usually ticks up only moderately each year, why has it suddenly spiked so sharply over the past year? There are a few key factors at play. First and foremost, the ongoing supply chain disruptions and labor shortages caused by COVID-19 have constrained the supply of goods and services, while demand has surged back thanks to stimulus measures. With too much money chasing too few goods, prices have shot upward. Factory shutdowns overseas and a lack of enough truck drivers, port workers, and warehouse employees here at home have severely hampered the supply chain. This has made it very difficult for businesses to keep up with surging consumer demand. On top of diminished supply, demand skyrocketed as the economy rapidly reopened and Americans flush with stimulus cash started spending freely again. Yet all that consumer eagerness ran up against major delays and bottlenecks getting goods to market. Imbalances in supply and demand drive inflation, and the pandemic created a massive one. Additionally, the war in Ukraine that began with Russia's invasion in February 2022 has led to even higher food and energy costs over the past year. Ukraine and Russia are both major global suppliers of commodities like wheat and oil. Disruptions to their production and exports due to the conflict have further strained supply, leading to price hikes. In summary, between the virus, policy responses to it, and geopolitical tensions, we've seen a perfect storm over the past year that has catapulted inflation to historic highs. COVID-driven supply-demand imbalance combined with the Ukraine war's impact on key commodities have sharply increased costs across the board. Now that we've covered what inflation is and the key reasons it has jumped recently, let's discuss how it impacts consumers like you and me. What do these soaring price tags mean for our everyday lives and finances? First off, high inflation strains household budgets by reducing purchasing power. Your paycheck simply doesn't go as far at the store when everything costs more. It takes an ever-growing share of income just to afford groceries, gas, rent, and other essentials. Big-ticket purchases like cars, furniture, and appliances carry significantly higher price tags, stretching budgets even further. Smaller discretionary purchases at the mall or restaurant also add up quicker, limiting what we can afford. Grocery bills have become noticeably more expensive, as food prices were up over 11% as of October 2022 compared to a year prior due to war and all that. Restocking the fridge and pantry takes more dollars. A typical shopping trip costs far more than last year. Housing affordability is also greatly impacted. Over the past year, rents have risen well above average historical levels, while home prices jumped over 15%. This strains not just home buyers, but also renters trying to manage steeper rental rates. For the millions living paycheck to paycheck, periods of high inflation can mean very tough financial choices. Trimming discretionary spending, taking on additional income sources, and relying on savings become necessary just to cover the basics. In essence, inflated prices leave consumers like us in a real bind. our money doesn't go nearly as far, while the cost of everyday needs and major expenses pile up. We have to get creative and often scale back to get by. Given the burden high inflation places on our finances, the big question on everyone's mind is, when will prices finally start to cool off again? Unfortunately, the consensus is we'll continue wrestling with elevated inflation for some time still. Most experts don't anticipate inflation easing back down to the Fed's 2% goal until the start of 2024 at the earliest. Price pressures are expected to remain high throughout the first half of 2024, potentially staying above 6% through summer before gradually declining. Ongoing supply chain improvements, slowing consumer demand, and the Fed's interest rate hikes should all help tame inflation over time. But the nature of inflation is that it builds on itself through a cycle of expectations. Once businesses and consumers expect inflation to be high, they behave in ways that end up driving it even higher, like demanding ever-rising wages or charging more preventively. Breaking this psychology takes time. Global trends also continue to put upward pressure on prices. Commodity constraints stemming from the Russian war, China's zero-COVID policies snarling supply chains again, and rising services costs as travel and recreation rebound post-pandemic. In total, expect to keep dealing with unusually high inflation for most of next year, before we see it potentially return to the more normal 2-3% range by late 2024. Patience and budget adjustments will be key for consumers in the interim. Since high inflation still has some runway left, what proactive steps can we take as consumers to ease the burden on our finances in the meantime? Looking to generic brands and shopping sales when possible can help us save money in this climate. Avoiding impulse purchases and being more intentional about what we buy also goes a long way when every dollar counts. Scaling back spending on non-essential categories like dining out, entertainment, and travel is prudent during periods of high inflation. Focusing on needs versus wants and limiting discretionary purchases will help offset the impacts. If your salary is not keeping up with rising living costs, exploring negotiations for higher pay or supplemental income streams could provide relief. Bringing in more dollars can counteract inflation's hit to your purchasing power. Paying down high-interest credit card balances and transferring remaining amounts to lower-rate cards can ease the burden of heavy interest costs. Consolidating debt through fixed-rate loans is another tool where advantageous. Locking in fixed interest rates now through refinancing mortgages, auto loans, student debt and the like protects against variable rate spikes down the road. Avoiding adjustable rate increases can provide stability. Postponing major upcoming outlays when possible allows you to benefit from lower future inflation. Delaying a kitchen remodel or other big project until prices cool may be prudent. Investing surplus cash to pursue long-term returns exceeding inflation can help your money maintain purchasing power over time. Letting compound growth work its magic enables your savings to outpace rising prices. Remaining adaptable and proactively managing finances will be key until inflation declines again. Relying on these types of money management adjustments can help us overcome economic challenges. Lastly, dealing with the highest inflation in 40 years certainly isn't fun or easy. But by understanding the causes, timeline, and proactive steps we can take, we can limit the damage to our finances. The key is adapting and exercising prudent money management until inflation returns to more normal levels, which we expect by late 2024 based on expert projections. Patience and flexibility remain vital in navigating this economic period. Outro. Well, that's all for today, as always. Please reach out with any other questions. I'm happy to clarify or expand on anything discussed today. We'll continue monitoring the inflation situation closely and providing updates. Stay strong out there, everyone. Brighter days lie ahead. And if you like this video, we would appreciate if you like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.